Right, so this week I thought I'd look at my collection of armies. I've had quite a few questions from people asking, if we can have a bit of a review of which armies I've got and what I've been building up. And I thought I'm getting ready to pull together some of my market garden stuff, so I thought this would be a good time to do this. So I'll start with the first one. Now my British Airborne, I've split into two platoons. And what you're looking at here is the smaller of the two, which is basically 756 points. Now, as you know, although I've said 756 points, there are lots of variables. You could have them carrying grenades and all sorts, or you could choose for them to be regulars, or veterans. So basically the points vary. So basically what I've done, just to get a feel for what I've got in here, I've gone for everything based on being veteran. And this first platoon here, I won't go through the individual squads, adds up to about 756 points if I max it out. Now obviously I wouldn't field these, that's my army of 756. I've gone for so many so I can pick and choose and build different types of army for different scenarios. So that's the first squad. If I put that to one side, I'll bring the second lot in. Now this, again, bearing in mind that the points vary, I've based it on veterans. You're looking at about 1,281 points of airborne in this box. And as you can see, there's three full squads in there and all the adjoining units. I'm not going to close in on everyone because we have seen these armies before, but it's just to give you a flavour of what I can actually pick from for individual battles. I mean, it may be over time that I might decide to let a few go that I'm not using very often, but for the time being I've got a big crew to work from, and that way I can pick up multiple, say 1,000 point team or a 1,500 point team, or even just a 500 point team, and I can pick and choose. So that's the British Airborne. Right, this next one that I'm going to bring in is the British Guard Division. Now this is the most recent one that you're probably familiar with. This is the smaller section, and basically I've got two platoons in here. So all of those on that side basically make up a 1,000 point army, and that again, it's based on veterans, but as you know, it is changeable. But that's based on the vehicles that I've included there, the two full squads, and then all the extra elements like the medic. Now this is the smallest platoon. It's not really a platoon as such, but it's just the way I've chosen to divide it. And that one represents 369 points. And that's one half of the army. If I bring in the other half, and this is the biggest one, Now this represents 1,282 points. So as you can see, you've got your 2 full squads. You've got a medic, forward observer, and then multiple vehicles. So altogether, I've got 2,651 points worth of British Guard units, as they are at the moment, that I can pick from and build an army from. Again, as you can see, because of the vehicles and the fact that I've wanted all the varieties, there's more than enough here for 2 great big armies, but I've basically done that. So I've got the flexibility of switching it around and having different 1,000 squads or 1,500 squads and giving each of the vehicles a turn until I can find out what my favourites are. And then it may be like with my airborne, I may choose to let some of them go. But initially I just wanted to kind of have one of everything, you know, so I can pick and choose and see which armies work for me. So that's all of the British side done now. Right, now this one is the one that featured in a previous video, which is basically the 82nd Airborne that I made up from a whole load of spares and leftover parts and all sorts. And it's been kicking around for ages. And finally I've got round to building it up. And with that I've managed to get a 996 point army. So it could field as 1,000 points, obviously. Or, like I said before, I could pick out the best of it and have a decent 2 different 500 point armies. But I would imagine, unlike the British, you know, where I've obviously got, you know, into the 2,000 points, I'm not likely to let any of these go from the 82nd because, to be honest, it's only just reaching the 1,000 points, so I've only got a small basic army out of that, so they'll probably stay as they are. Right, let me just reach and get the others. I'm back in a second. Right, so what you've got here is my American 101st Airborne, based on the Band of Brothers. And again, I've split it, you know, just for the sake of argument, into 2 platoons. And they're fairly even. One of the platoons maxes out at about 661 points and the other at 587. But then all together, and that's not including the vehicles, you're talking about, you know, 1,248 points. I've not counted the vehicles for the simple reason I've built these 2 Market Garden build lists, and in the Market Garden the Sherman and the truck are not an option, so I could only use the Jeep. But obviously if I want a generic 101st Airborne unit, I could include those. So that would, I could quite easily field a 1,500 point army from this box. Or, like I said, I can pick and choose and build 1,000 point armies. Again, it's very unlikely that I'd let any of these go because, you know, they do constitute a decent size army to choose from. I think it's just the British where I went a bit overboard, but that's because I received them as presents, so I built them up a bit higher. So that's my 101st Airborne. Right, now, over onto my German armies. Right, now this first one is my Schwer Panzer Abteilung 559 army. Now this, basically I've just left them all as one complete squad. And that maxes out around about 1,777 points. So clearly, you know, I'd be picking and choosing to build a 1,500 point army, and I'd have quite a good selection to choose from for a 1,000 point army, and obviously even more with a 500. But again, you know, it's a reasonable number of men to have to give myself some flexibility for choosing an army from. So that represents the first German squad. Now all of these, you know, what you've got to bear in mind, all these that we've been looking at are armies that I've pulled together initially with Operation Market Garden in mind. Clearly, obviously, I could, you know, change them and use them in other battle arenas, but at the moment, that's what I pulled them together for. So let's just take a look at the last German army that I built with Market Garden in mind. And in here we've got 2 platoons. And these represent my 10th SS Aufklärung battalions. Now, the 2 platoons are kind of divided to a 968 maxed out army, and then the second platoon is 435 points. So altogether these represent a maxed out 1,403 point army. Now, as I've kept repeating myself, they could actually be more points than that if I was to, you know, decide to qualify them differently or order them with carrying grenades and things like that. Or conversely, there could be a lot less points if I went from being regular soldiers. So these are all the options that I've got, but I figure having this quantity of points at the maxed out points that I'm giving you of 1,403 points, that basically gives me quite a bit I can choose from. One other thing, not to confuse the issue, but if I pull these 2 armies together, theoretically I can build a 3rd German force. And the one that I've found on the Market Garden build list is the 16th SS Training and Replacement Battalion, which took part in the battle. So I could utilise these to build that section up, and that would give me another option. So as you can see, I've got quite a bit of choice, you know, that I can pull into Operation Market Garden. Now, obviously, there's lots of nations that I've not got any representation of, but that's not through choice so much as these are the ones that I had, so I've built these up. That isn't to say that I wouldn't consider adding, say, a Canadian force, or a Dutch resistance force, or a Polish airborne. You know, possibly I could. But at the moment, with that project in mind, these are the ones that I've built. And obviously with the British, I'm thinking far ahead to when I eventually go down the line of looking at a D-Day force. You know, that way I could reuse the British as a different force. So, it does, on the whole, all of these ones I've got, they give me a fair bit that I can choose from. And it also allows me to cover a fair number of different scenarios in Market Garden. So with that covered, there is some other armies that I do own. You'll have to forgive me because I've not been terribly well this week. I've been suffering with a second bout of COVID in as many weeks. And so I've not got these out of the cabinet, but there's a reason for that. I'm pulling all of these out because I'm hoping to give a little glimpse of all of the Market Garden project that I've been building. I'm looking in the next few weeks to film a few table layouts to bring it all together, because I know a lot of people wanted to see everything together and see it on the table. So I'm hoping to capture some pictures and perhaps video of that at some point. So that's the reason why I've not got the other 3 armies out that I've got, because they're all winter armies. So what I'll do, just so I can cover all the armies I've got so far, I'll give you a quick glimpse of them in the cabinet. Right, I'll be with you in a minute. Right, so in this cabinet, I've got what probably represents 3 different generic German winter armies. Among these, I'm sorry the pictures are not so great with it being in a cabinet. I have a force of German grenadiers. I've got a force of Waffen SS. I've got some Fallschirmjägers, and what's the other force that I've got? The Winter German force. They're not in any particular order in this cabinet. It's just that I've put all the winter figures together, and those first 3 shelves that we've looked at are those 3 German armies. And obviously it gives me the flexibility to produce any number of different armies. Then next to that is my 101st Airborne, again based on, this is what grew out of my very first set, which was the Band of Brothers set, and I added to it and added to it, and I winterized them. So this is all my 101st Airborne select, that I can select from. I can't tot the points up for you because I've not got these out on the table. But you'll see there's a lot of Stocy figures in there that I have shown in other videos anyway, that represent the Band of Brothers. And I've got quite a few full squads here that I can produce, and pull out a 500 point army, a 1,500 point, even 2,000 points if I need to. And then the third and final shelf is the last of all the extras, like the bazookas and the snipers and the medic. Then I've got a small band of German guards in here, because I've got nowhere else to place them, before going on to a collection of the Stocy Band of Brothers figures. And finally, a light mortar. So, all in all, I'd say there was probably about 3 German armies in there, and a very large 101st Airborne army in there. But as I say, I've not got them out because they are winter forces. Right, I'll take you back to the table and I'll close this one up. Right, so I'm going to close this video now. I just thought, as I am going to be working on pulling together all of my Operation Market Garden stuff, this would be a good opportunity to fulfill all the requests I've had to see the armies that I actually own. And as you can see, and as I've said, there is some overkill in the British Airborne and probably a bit of overkill in the Guards unit. But there is some method to my madness in the British Guard unit, because I will be using them at some point in the long distant future for D-Day. So I probably want several different armies for that. So anyway, I know it's a bit of a repeat for some people because you've seen many of these armies individually, but I just thought I'd bring them all together so you can see the entire collection. There is, there will be at least one more army coming this year, but it is going to be a long way into the year before I get to it. And that will actually be an American army, which I received for Christmas. I've got, a box of 30 of those. So no doubt I will be building an army around that. But that, like I say, it's not going to be part of this Market Garden project, but it will crop up in the future. So for now, that's my army collection, everybody. I'm sorry it's been long-winded, and I hope that it's fulfilled all those that have been requesting this. And as I said, the other promises I've been making is to show you all the Market Garden stuff brought together, the bridges, the sceneries, a table in action. And I've been putting it off because of the house move, but I promise to get working on that in the next few weeks, and hopefully I'll be putting out something that can show you it all coming together before I move on to this year's projects, which is going to be more terrain and a variety of projects. Anyway, thanks again for joining me. I hope you've liked it. Hope those that wanted it are happy with it, and I hope those who've seen it all before can forgive me. And I'll see you again soon. Bye.